Hello everyone. Today's tutorial is on animating typography, or what's called kinetic typography. I'll be using Adobe After Effects. First of all, I want to open After Effects, and then I'm going to create a new project. Okay, and then a new composition, which I'm going to call animated typo. Okay, and the size 1920 1080, that's fine. The frame rate, I'll keep it at 30 frames per second, and the time I'll make it 10 seconds. Okay, and then I hit OK. After that, I need to create a solid, so I'm going to layer, new, and in here, in this drop down selection, I get solid, and I'm going to call this solid background. Make sure it's the same size. It should be the same size, and you can change the color if you want. I'm just going to use a gray color for now. I'll modify that later. Hit OK, OK, and now your background layer is down here. It's already on your timeline. Now I want to import the audio file. I'm going to File, Import File. This is actually a clip, okay, a video clip, but I won't use this, so I'm just simply going back to my composition here, and then click and drag the clip and place it beneath the background layer. Okay, so it's there, but I can't say it. However, I can hear the voice.
Under the spreading chestnut tree.
Right, so this is a quote from 1984 by George Orwell. The sound is not very loud, so I need to make it slightly higher. So I just expand this layer, go to audio, and in the audio levels, I'm going to make this 12, and then I test.
Under the spreading chestnut.
Right, now I want to tidy up this timeline a little bit. First, I'm going to collapse this layer. I'm going to click here. I'm going to the end of my audio file, and I press N, so it just streams down to this the duration of my clip, and I'm going to do right click here. Okay, right click, and then trim come to work area. So it will just expand till it covers the entire timeline. Right, I just saved my project. Now I want to create a text, and in order to do that, I'm going to select the type tool here, and I can start typing. Before I type, I would like to go on the right hand side, then I can select the typeface. I could select the color, I could select size, and all the features related to typography. But for now, I'm just gonna go with this typeface and probably white color. I will change that eventually. So I start typing. Now, be careful with this. Make sure that your type layer is above the background, otherwise you won't see anything. Okay, so I think that's okay. Right, so just type the entire text, and I'll see you in a second. Right, so I just finished typing the text. Now right now I have everything into one single layer, and in order to animate, I need to split this up in layers according to the number of words that I have here. So that I need to get under into one layer, there into one layer, spreading into one single layer. So to do that, it's quite simple. Just select the text, Command C, Command X. I'm just going to remove that space. Go to the selection tool, go back to the text tool, click, and then you have under here in a single layer. If this happens to you, just go to Window, Workspace, and then Reset. Okay? So then you get this working again. Okay, now you can see I can have under into one single layer. So continue doing this until every single word here is in a layer. So I've finished. You can see that every single word is in a brand new layer. There's a little observation here is on this frame 12, layer 12. There is always an empty layer because you basically cut everything from it. So just click there and delete it. Okay. Now the next step is to style, organize my text and start animating. So in order to animate it, I would like to bring up some guidelines. So I'm going to toggle my ruler. So I do Command R. Now I can see my rulers here. So I click on the background and I'm going to click and drag one of these towards the middle of my background, vertically and horizontally. That's it. From there I can start composing. So I'm going to start with this word under. Just going to place it at the top. Go to one of the corners here. Okay. Press Shift, click and drag. Okay, so I can control it a little bit better. Okay. So I'm okay with this. Now I'm going to get this word here. What I would like to do is probably rotate this and place it here. So if that's what I want to do, I'll do it by using the transform tools here. So I expand this layer, go to transform, then I go to rotation. I'm not going to keyframe, okay, for obvious reasons. I'm just going to type here -90, see what happens here. That's what I want. I'm going to collapse this and have a look here. Okay, we have our pivot point here. I'll probably get back to the pivot point later, but for now I'm just going to keep it like that. I'm going to place this here, sort of the same size as the under type. Okay. Now I continue with the next word, which is spreading. And once again, just going to bring my guidelines to make sure that the text looks good. Probably need to go through a lot of adjustments later on, but for now I just want to have a general layout here. Okay, I'll bring this down. You can use the arrow keys to be more precise. There's something that I would like to explain here, and it's in the case of this word here, tree, that you can see that the pivot point is here. So I would like to place the pivot point here and then rotate 90 degrees in order to have the same style as this one here, there, right? So I basically need to go to, I need to press Y, okay, which is this, the shortcut for this pan behind tool. And then I'm just going to move the pivot point down here. Okay, so any rotation that I apply from now on will be anchor to this point. So I'm going to expand this layer, go to transform layer and go to rotation, and again I'm going to type 90. Well, no, probably -90 then. There you go. Okay, and I'm going to collapse this back again. Okay, so I finished with this. As you can see, my text is quite big, so it's it's kind of not looking good really. So I want to adjust the size of all these layers at the same time, right? So I could do it one by one, right? But there's an easy way to do it, which is by creating a null object. So I'm going to create it by clicking on layer, new, and null object. Okay, so I'll use this a few times, so I'm just gonna keep the same name. But now what I need to do is link all these layers to the null object. So I'm going to select every single layer, click the first layer, shift and click right at the bottom one, the last one, only the text, right? And then go to this little spiral icon and you click and drag to null. Okay, now you can see that now this changed from known to null. What I can do is go into null, open here, or expand the transform layer, and in scale I'm just going to click and drag left, maybe something like this, that's okay. And now I'm going to move it from this little square. Okay, this is my null object, so make sure you click there, don't click on the anywhere outside, because then you will move only the layer. So I'm going to select the null object and I'm going to place it wherever I want it. It should be somewhere there. Okay, again, use the arrow keys if you want to have it properly placed. Okay, and now once you are happy with this composition, just select the null object and delete it. Right, so this is my final composition. Now I need to synchronize the audio with the typography. So what I would like to do now is to select the audio file here and press L twice so I can see the waveform here, and from there I can start synchronizing. Okay, so I'm going to press the space
Under
bar,
the spreading.
and what I want to do is to trim down my text layer so they will appear as the text, as the voice mentions the word. Okay, so the first one is under, and what you can see in the waveform is that the beginning is sort of very narrow, so I can identify where the first word starts. So I'm just going to go down here, and then I'm going to press the square bracket. Okay, and at the back, you see, if I go back, my word disappear.
Under the
Okay, I'm just gonna keep on doing that, probably move it a little bit further down, and press the left square bracket.
under the spread.
Okay, and I need to continue doing this with every single word.
Under the
Okay, so they should go somewhere here, I suppose.
under the spreading.
Okay. Okay, so I finished trimming down my text, and this is what it looks like.
Under the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you. You sold me.
There are two things here. The word sold and you is repeated twice, so I only have it once in my text, but I will apply probably a second animation style to make it go along with the text. Okay, that will be in a further step. Right, now I'm going to the audio track, and I'm press L again because I don't really need to see the waveform anymore. And now I want to start animating. I want to create a new null object. Okay, so remember, go to layer, new null object, and I'm going to call this null object here. I'm going to call this animation. Okay, right click, rename animation. Okay, it's quite common that you double click on the object and then you go to the composition, so make sure you are on your animated typography composition. In fact, you can delete this under composition. You don't really need that. I'm going to place my null object at the top just to keep it organized, and I'm going to link all these layers to my animation. And to do that, I select all the typography layers, go to this icon here, click and drag, and then just drop it on top of animation. Okay, so now every single layer changes here to animation. If you can't see this windows here, just do right click, columns, and then look for parent and links, and yeah, that's the one, parent and links. Now, quite important, something I probably should have mentioned before, make sure that all your layers have this 3D layer. They are 3D layer. Okay, so basically do all the typography. The background, you don't need it really, but and also make sure that the motion blur is on. I won't use it right now, but we'll do it later, so just let's do it now. Also, in order to visualize the motion blur, just toggle this. Okay, let's start with our animation. As I said before, what I want to animate is this null object. Okay, so what happens is that when I move the null object, everything will follow it, right? So I'm just going to make sure that for my first frame, this text is somewhere outside, and I just bring up layer by layer as the animation happens. Okay, so in here, I'm just going to my first frame, which is position, and then just gonna go to this frame where the word under should appear. I can't see it here because it's outside my workspace, but I'm going to keyframe, and I want this text to go somewhere, let's say here. Okay, now let's play the animation. We might need to adjust some items here. Okay, so you see we can't really see it from the beginning, so what I would like to do is just to get this first layer, just go back to the beginning, and then I should be able to see the animation happening. So I'm going to play playback,
Under the
and there you go.
under the
Okay, there's always room for improvement in terms of timing,
under the spread.
but so far it's looking good. So remember, select these two keyframes to right click, and then go to keyframe assistant, and then ECs. Okay, or F9. Okay.
Under the spreading.
Okay, also notice that the word looks blurred here. Okay, and this is because we have applied this motion blur here. Okay, so if you don't want that, that's absolutely fine. Just toggle this, and then it won't show up. However, I think it's an interesting effect that gives more sense of movement, of course. Okay, so I want to animate the word there, which appears just kind of suddenly. So what I can do is, in this case, I could actually play around with this, like to maybe play with the opacity. Okay, so all this is a combination of the elements that you want to animate. So I just want to get opacity here. So probably go back here. Remember that I'm on my the layer. So I'm just gonna go here, and the opacity will be 0. And then I'm going to this frame, and I want to keyframe again. Okay, remember to keyframe, and the opacity will be 100. And select these two layers, right click, keyframe assistant, and then ECs, and then it should appear.
Under the spreading.
Okay, just double check that the word is appearing properly. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this a little bit here. Okay, probably move this back if you want. Again, you need to be careful with the adjustments, and you can spend a lot of time doing this.
Under the spreading.
Okay, now I'm going to do the word spreading, and then it's going to be all up to you to work at home. Okay, so I want to animate the word spreading now. So I'm going to make this text go up here. Okay, so what I like to do is just to go back to animation layer, just expand the layer, go to transform, and then we're going to play with the position again. So you're going to go back a few frames here. I'm going to keyframe. I'm just going to check that it's fine. It seems to be okay. Now I want the word spreading here to go up. Okay, so I keyframe, I click. Remember that you are on the animation, so select it from the bounding box. Okay, and then just go up somewhere here, maybe like so, and let's see what it looks like.
Under the spreading chestnut.
Okay, so it's looking good. I still need some adjustments, so maybe somewhere here, maybe here.
Under the spreading chestnut.
Okay, so continue doing this animation until you are satisfied with the effects and the motion itself. Okay, I've done something quite simple, but I'll show you what it looks like.
Under the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you. You sold me.
Okay, so far, as you can see, I've only animated the null object, right? So what I would like to do now is to fix a few details here and probably apply a bit of animation to individual words here, like I and probably sold and you. Right, so I want to go to the letter I, or the word I, and I want to make this small on my first frame and probably bigger at the end. So I'm just going to this layer, I'm going to expand and then expand here, transform. Okay, and I'm going to look scale, which is the layer I should be animating. So I'm going to keyframe scale here, and then a few frames later I'm going to keyframe again. Now this is important, make sure your anchor point is right where you need it. So in my case I'm just going to sort of scale this down from this corner, so it should be okay. So just gotta go back here. Before I'm just going to select these two keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant and easy ease. And now I go to the first keyframe and I want the scale down. I just want to scale down this, maybe 0. Okay. And it should go this way here. And I just toggle this somewhere here. Let's have a look. I'm going to collapse this and do command minus so I can see my entire workspace.
Under the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you. You.
It's just looking a little bit slow, so just probably need to adjust the keyframes. So I just gotta bring this back and see what happens.
I sold you. I sold you.
So I'm going to collapse this layer. I'm going to look for you, okay, and check exactly where I want this to happen.
I sold you. You sold me.
Okay, so you, it repeats you here. So what I want to do, I'm going to expand this you layer, go to transform, and what I would like to do is to change the scale, okay? So first of all, I'm going to hit the scale here and keyframe, and I would like to go probably somewhere here, keyframe again, and I would like to go somewhere in between and make this bigger. So I'm just going to bring this up here. Okay, now that I'm here in between, I'm going to keyframe. Now that's quite important here that I'm going to scale this from the middle, okay? So this anchor point is not center. So in order to center that, just select the word, okay, do command double click on the pan behind, okay, double click and it should center. Now I can just change the scale here, okay, you can do something like that if you want, and then select these three keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, and easy ease. And this should look like this. Okay, I'm just going to do control minus, see what it looks like, and I'm going to play back.
You sold me.
Okay, so it's not synchronized, but I just need to adjust this by moving my keyframes. Right, so this is what I did with the word sold. It's exactly the same as I did before. So I think it's looking fine. So I'm just going to go back to frame 1 and play
Under
back.
the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you. You sold me.
Okay, so I want to play around with a couple of things. The first one is pre-composition, which is very interesting because it simplifies the way we work. So what I want to do is to select all these layers from animation down to me. I don't want to select the background layer. I don't want to select the audio layer. I do right click, and now I'm going to do a pre-compose. Okay. Now I'm just creating an individual composition for this. So I'm just going to call this typo, and I hit OK. And now I have this typo here as a new composition here. Now there's no audio here, but the animation is there. However, if you go back to animated typo, which is our original composition, you have this all these layers compressed into one composition. So any change that I do here in my typography composition will be applied directly here. So it just sort of makes life easier for all of us. Right, now this background is looking pretty dull. So what I would like to do is to apply maybe a color, maybe a gradient, perhaps a texture. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to select the background layer, and I'm going to effects here, effects and presets, gradient. So I'm going to type gradient here. I'm going to select this one, which is a gradient ramp. Let's see what happens. I just click and drag, and now I can select here. Okay, yeah, 2 colors. You can add more colors if you want. I'm just gonna select the kind of bluish color here. Okay, now be careful with this. I just made a mistake, which is good that it happens, so you can see where the problems are. I selected the typography composition layer, so I need to be in the background layer. Okay, so I'm going to undo everything. I'm going to my background, make sure you are in the background, and then apply the gradient. Just click and drag, and it should be okay. There you go. That's what I want. So I'm going to get a kind of bluish color. Oh, that's awful. Maybe something like this. And for the second color, okay, and now I'm just going to get this white color, and I'm going to apply a color. Okay, this is, yeah, that's okay, I suppose. You can change the start of ramp if you want to change the direction of the gradient. Okay, so just click and drag here. I'm okay with my ramp this way. And now what I would like to do is to maybe apply a texture. Why not? So I'm going to file, I'm going to import a file which I already have, and it's called a file PNG, and I save it as a PNG, so it's a, I can play around with the transparency. So you're gonna go back to animated typo. I'm going to drag my file just above my background. Okay, here, sorry. And this is the texture, and I really want to knock down the opacity a little bit, but actually quite a lot. Don't want to have it too strong there. So I'm just going to bring the opacity down, 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 somewhere here. Okay, I'm going to collapse this and play around
Under the spreading chestnut tree.
Okay, So I would like to apply maybe a shadow to my typefaces. So I'm just going here and I'm going to my layer. Okay, select the typography layer, go to layer, and in layer styles go for drop shadow, and I'm going to look for again for my gradient ramp, that this time I'll apply it on the typography layer. So just click and drag. You can drag it here, drop it here, and I'm going to select the colors that I want. I think this is pretty much what we do. Now you can, something that I haven't done is just to toggle this back so I can see the motion blur effect. Okay, so I think that's all for now. If you have any question, just type it in the comments box, and please subscribe and share these videos, and thank you very much.